and I expect people to meet me where I am. And there's just something really, really beautiful and hilarious and absurd about being human. And when we start talking it, we all recognize it, and it just very quickly shifts it from this is the most scary and uncomfortable thing in the world because I'm alone and nobody else has ever experienced it, to this is not a personal thing at all, it's a really human thing. And that doesn't take it anything away. You're no less special. But a lot of the times we think we're more broken, more special. Nobody's ever had anything like this ever. And that is our child, not our sovereign talking. And I give space for that as well. Like, let your child have space. We're not trying to rid ourselves of our shadows. We want to embrace them like we would our own children.
Y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. Today I have on the show Ebonie Allard, and she is an energy specialist, master coach, and soul contract guide who offers a unique approach to self-discovery that's both playful and profound. She helps experienced culture makers live their lives fully empowered, embodied, and fully expressed, blending human design, gene keys, astrology, and numerology with somatic practices and energetic alchemy. She helps you to decode the details of your soul contracts, integrate the shadows in your blind spots, and reignite your sacred spark so that you are fulfilled, satisfied, and living your full potential. And we are talking today about becoming full of yourself. And Ebonie's, this is her motto in everything that she does. She's all about having fun in everything that you do, just being unapologetically fabulous. And we were talking about that, becoming full of yourself as this gateway to fulfillment and what it really means to become full of ourselves for yourself, for other people, and what it looks like when we suppress this part of us, and what it looks like to really, truly discover our purpose and what we're meant for, and this idea of true fulfillment. I love talking to Ebonie. I had the honor of being on her podcast as well, and I love everything that she teaches and how she teaches it. So much value you're going to get out of this episode, so let's jump in. All right, y'all. I'm here with Ebonie, and I am so happy to have you on this show, Ebonie. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
I'm so happy to be here. I loved having you on my podcast, and so it feels really fun to come and do it the other way around.
Yes, likewise. I had so much fun, and I am excited about this conversation because you blend really all of my favorite things in the work that you do with human design and gene keys and astrology and numerology and all the things, like all the fun things, somatic practices. And I wanted to start with this idea that you talk about of becoming full of yourself, which I love. I love how you say it. I just love everything about it. And we're talking about fulfillment and like finding true fulfillment. What do you mean when you're talking about becoming full of yourself?
You cannot be fully fulfilled if you are not being your full self. It's kind of that simple. And it sounds so, because we all grew up, or most of us grew up with stop being so full of yourself, or, oh, she's so full of herself. And that's where it came from. Many, many years ago, I ran some Facebook ads, and I had two different sets of ads, and two different women commented underneath my video, oh my God, this woman's so full of herself. And my response was a really embodied response. Like in my body, I was like, who else should I be full of? And
that's a great point.
And that little whisper is what I'm talking about, right? And I feel like, I spent a lot of my teens and 20s restricting, controlling, and I didn't come into human design or the gene keys until much later. I had astrology from very young, and now I can see specifically things around my gate 60, and I can also see my north node in gate 4, and we can get into that later. But all of my chart is pointing towards really helping people to feel and become enriched by being their full selves, embracing their entire range. And in my in my early teens, when I first started having bleeds, my menstrual cycle was all over the place, and it was horrifically heavy. And I've been on a whole journey through that, and a lot of health stuff to do with neurodiversity. And the more full of myself I become, the more I reclaim my entire range from not just somebody who is productive and clever and a 5-2 manifesting generator, but also someone who is restful and easeful and like is a pussycat and likes to just curl up in a sunny spot and read a book and not do anything or respond to anyone. And that whole journey has really been one of reclamation. And I think that becoming full of yourself is a journey of reclamation and a journey towards full fulfillment by, particularly as somebody who has a satisfaction or theme or frustration theme. When we're not being our whole selves, there's always going to be this level of frustration in the body. And one of the things that I kind of discovered on my embodiment journey is that every health thing I'd ever had was to do with inflammation. Everything was to do with inflammation. And I started to realize that if you're not expressing, then you're going to be inflamed. And that frustration and anger are inflammation in the body, right? And the way that that moves through us. And so to be your full and whole self means being emotional if you're emotional. It means, having some hermit time if you have a two-line, all of these things. And so one of the reasons that I use all of these tools is to help people almost see the evidence, right? See it written in black and white so that you go, oh, well, that is who I am. It says so, right? And a lot of that for me comes from having an open G center, because it was like, well, if I'm not, like, who do I need to be in order to belong? And the truth is I can be anyone because I've got this open G. And so that was also like part of the deconditioning process to me. It was like, I belong to myself and I can belong anywhere, but I get to choose people and situations that actually feel safe. And I've gone off on one completely already, but little things about like having an undefined spleen, so I feel insecure, and though all of those little pieces, it just gave me so much richness to be able to find a way to fulfillment that felt like I wasn't making it up.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. Well, and I like what you said about the reclamation part. And so for you, what do you feel like were some of the most challenging pieces for you to reclaim as part of you?
I used to say for many, many years, I would say that on day 22 of my cycle, I hate everyone. And on day 24 of my cycle, I hate me.
Oh, that's so good.
And what I came to understand when I was younger, there weren't labels like PMDD, but if there had been, I definitely experienced it. And like the drop in hormones from one day to the next was so massive. And over the years, I've tried to explain it to people and been on my own journey of reclaiming, like, what does it feel like? And is it okay to even think about this or to talk about it? And what might it look like to explain it to somebody else? And to really be in a relationship with somebody and to tell them my truth of, actually, I am really insecure on these days, because not just mentally and emotionally, which is true and how it kind of manifests, but actually what's physically going on is all of this hormone is leaving my body and has massively dropped. And I'm not the same person I was yesterday. So if you told me I was amazing yesterday, I need to hear it again today, because I'm just not that person anymore.
Yes.
So that's kind of what it looked like. It's like being able to ask somebody to support me and to tell me what they can see on the days that I can't, and also being willing to believe them. And that's been a real part of my journey. It's like, okay, when I can't believe myself or I can't trust what I see, and I look totally different to myself in the mirror in my luteal phase. And I always want to cut all my hair off. I'm like, how did I put on this much weight overnight? Like, I look physically different in the mirror overnight. And I've had to learn I can't trust that. And so also like having an emotional wave and knowing I have an emotional wave is like, okay, there's no truth in the now. Can you ask other people what they can see? And can I ask and say things like, I'm about to ask you something and I know you're going to laugh, but this is actually really serious and important to me. So could you go there? And that's been like so edgy, because before I might have said, can you tell me what you can see, like, have I put on loads of weight since yesterday or whatever it was? And they would be like, no, you look exactly the same. And it would be very dismissive, but really they'd only be projecting my own inner like sense of dismiss, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I don't know whether that answers the question, but it's been a really interesting journey of like finding these shadowy, uncomfortable pieces of myself and being willing to look at them and then going, okay, I'm a manifesting generator. I can make this fun. I can make it playful. Like, how does this get to be not like deep, dark, heavy work, but actually just get to be curious and an exploration?
Hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire, and you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care, because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality, and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show. Yeah, no, that does answer the question. And you bring up such a great point about the shadowy stuff. And I think so often we can make and I'm not saying, I don't want to make it sound like I'm dismissing people's personal growth journey, because there are hard parts. I mean, we all know that there are hard parts of the growth journey. Like, let's just going to say that. But at the same time, and I think so often we do make it this serious, heavy thing when, like you said, like, can I bring some levity to it? Like, can I make it fun? So can you speak a little bit more on that? Like the shadowy parts, like we find these shadows, and so often too, even just confronting the shadows is like, oh, I don't want to look at this. Like, it's annoying. I don't like these parts, like, ew. So how do we bring more like levity and fun and lightness rather than making it like this big heavy thing to work with the shadowy stuff?
Do it in community. And that sounds like the most terrifying thing in the world, right? You're like, I am not taking my shadow, my shame, my anger, my revulsion, my fears, the stuff I don't know. I'm not taking that to a group setting. But shame disappears as soon as we bring touch to it and humanity to it, closeness and intimacy. It's one of the things that I'm actually like really a natural. I have right. So this subtle wave that's been the bane of my life. I have gate 59 and 6, right? So I'm really emotional, but I'm the last person to know that I'm emotional.
I have 59 as well. I know.
59-6, on the one hand, it's this like subtle wave, and on the other hand, it's the channel of intimacy. And so it's in that intimacy, it's in that transparency, it's in that sense of like, if I show you what's here, will it bring conflict or peace, which is that 6th line? And actually what happens is we're terrified, right? I am terrified. I'm like, if I show you this thing, what's going to happen? And the truth is that when we choose and we discern the right space and the right people, 2 things happen. 1, we trust ourselves more because we chose the right space and the right people. And they all go, oh my God, me too. And then we laugh about it. And in that laughter, energy is moving and flowing and shifting and changing. And when you watch somebody else share a story and you're like, oh my God, me too. Like, I feel like that. I understand that. I've been there. But you're giving them like compassion and you want to say, but sweetheart, like, that really wasn't that bad. And then you're like, wow, I never say that to me. And so there's this beautiful piece of humanity that gets to happen when we bring our shadows into intimate containers that are safe. And whilst we as practitioners can never tell somebody this is a safe space, I mean, we can try, but I am really anti it. What I do is I bring my own vulnerabilities and I'm part of that group and I share and I lead from the front. Right. And I expect people to meet me where I am. And there's just something really, really beautiful and hilarious and absurd about being human. And when we start talking it, we all recognize it. And it just very quickly shifts it from this is the most scary and uncomfortable thing in the world because I'm alone and nobody else has ever experienced it, to this is not a personal thing at all. It's a really human thing. And that doesn't take it anything away. You're no less special. But a lot of the times we think we're more broken, more special. Nobody's ever had anything like this ever. And that is our child, not our sovereign talking. And I give space for that as well. You know, like let your child have space. We're not trying to rid ourselves of our shadows. We want to embrace them like we would our own children.
Yes, yes. I love that so much. And that was not the answer I was expecting, which is why I love it so much, because you're right. I think that it's not something we typically like to do, is to bring all of our yucky stuff like in front of people and lay bare before that, I think, but you explain that so perfectly and it makes perfect sense because to your example, I think so often, yes, we're so much more willing to give compassion and grace and understanding to other people, but not to ourselves. And so it's kind of one of those like reflection things, like why, well, I'm giving this person this and their situation and that situation I haven't, like, that's a really eye-opening scenario right there. And recognizing
it's such a great logic loop for those of us like who take ourselves into logic, right? And I've got a Sagittarius moon, and so I'm very good at thinking feelings, but you can't in that moment because there's no it's like you kind of trap yourself in this logic loop of like, oh, okay. And it's right in front of you and you can't hide from yourself. And that's one of the things that I love about healing in community. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not a big space person. Community it can be another person. It's kind of better when it's at least three, because then you have a witness as well. And that can just be really, really beautiful. And there's something so simple. And I think a lot of healing, people want to complicate it. And they're like, I can tell you what the answer is right now. And you can tell me whether you've had this experience, but I can tell someone what the answer is right away. And they're like, no, not that. Give me something harder, more complicated, with more steps in it.
yes.
And like you say, it's not. Healing is not. You said, it's hard. Or personal growth, it's hard. And it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
A lot of it isn't hard at all.
Right.
It means being present, staying in the room. And often we talk about like doing the work. There's often nothing to do other than be present with what is. But that's so uncomfortable.
It is, yes.
And I can find a million excuses, reasons, stories, justifications for not being present, except when there's other people there. I will stay for them.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, it does. And you're right. Most of the things in personal growth, like they're fairly straightforward and simple. It's just, are we willing to be uncomfortable and to get uncomfortable and to, like you said, like sit in it and stay with it, stay in it. That's the tricky part. That's the tricky part. And
I think particularly for women,
yes,
there's always something, right? Sure. I need to go and do this. I need to take care of that. Right, we flit around all over the place. Yep. But actually, when there's somebody else that needs something from us, like, oh, I need to be a witness to this. Okay, yeah, I can do that bit, right? And that makes such a difference. And again, particularly for women, we are pitted against one another and isolated from each other, and so much of our body and our health and all of those things, our cycles, are not shared publicly, and so we think we're not supposed to. And when we start talking about it, there's real power in that because it takes so much of the taboo out of it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. No, that's perfectly said. One thing you said a second ago, or you said earlier, you mentioned your open G center or undefined G center. And I wanted to go back to that because I'm always fascinated. Mine is defined, so I'm always
Right.
fascinated to hear like how it all works.
Yeah.
And and two, I think that this can be something that people with a defined G center could also experience, but it's just kind of that identity crisis thing. But you were saying, with your open G, realizing like I could be anything I want. It's just deciding. So for you, like as with the world as your oyster, which we can all be whatever we want, right? But specifically talking about the energy in the center, how was it for you when you were deciding, like, this is the identity I claim for myself with the Open G Center and all the things that could be happening there?
You know what? It's really fluid, right? If you think about it, so it is open rather than undefined.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that makes much difference, but
It
it's like
does. Yeah.
it's an open space.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about this in my container recently because we are so, again, like conditioned to look for what's wrong. So think of conditioning as all the things that are wrong,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That we very often look at open centers and go, well, that's where the conditioning is. And for
Yes.
me, the real like the science behind it is actually our defined centers is where we are a beacon of an energy, right? We have our own signature frequency and we have a responsibility to be that in its as highest form as we can because other people are amplifying that. If we have it undefined, it's an ease point, except that we get, so which means it's open and it accepts ease, right? And we can just flow. And if you think about it like a reflector, reflectors are just sampling. So wherever you have an open center, you're just sampling whatever is. But we can get very stuck, or we can take on someone else's identity or something, or we can sample it and then feel like we've got to hold it and have it forever. And if we were talking to a reflector, we would say, be less of a sponge and be more of a mirror,
Mm-hmm.
and or like learn to really like let go of what's coming in, like let it sample it, but you don't need all of it. You're just having a taste, right? And you can give it back. And so what I have learned is that when I stopped being like, who do I need to be? Who do I need to be? Who do I need to be in order to fit here? What are the rules? Tell me how to show up. I started to realize all the places that I fitted with ease and then started really experimenting. And so, I've just spent the last 6 years living in Spain, and the version of me there is so different from the version of me here. And it was a part of me that I really needed to like solidify the the version of me that wears Daisy Dukes and bikini tops and no shoes and has had this fringe isn't or these bangs are new because I've just come back to England and it's much like and I'm wearing black again, and it's not on purpose, right? It just happens because the environment really affects me. And so in terms of like how do I choose or like how do I claim that identity, I've got to be really, really mindful of who and where I put myself, because I will reflect my environment. My identity will be formed a little bit about and from the people who are around me. And I am really mindful of it. If I'm around people who don't move their bodies or who eat terribly or who, all of that, it's so easy just for me to end up there. I'm not someone, my best relationships have been, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hang out with someone who like works out every day. I don't then work out necessarily every day, but that energy is, I can really feel it in my body, and it moves me. And so, yeah, I guess it's like I know now that I belong wherever I am, but I am really open and susceptible to the environment and the energies and the unstrong identities around me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get to be very mindful and have some practices that bring me back to myself. And I do spend a lot of time, I choose to spend at least a little bit of time each day alone so that I can really check in with like, who am I being in
Mm-hmm.
this scenario?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I feel like that's important for a lot of reasons. I'm the same, and I recognize I am a conscious reflector, and then a unconscious mani-gen. And so I do feel that like that. And I notice during the week if like like this week in particular, for whatever reason, like my days have just been stacked, which I typically really mindful about not doing that, but it just happened.
Yeah.
Like I recognize like, okay, I don't have a lot of time to like be in my own space, like be in my own like that. And that makes a huge difference. So I do think that's important.
We have that in common. I remember, right, so I'm a conscious, like my mind's a reflector and my
Uh-huh.
body's a manifester.
Yeah.
And it's that, yeah, I become a manifesting generator. But again, like separating that out and really understanding, hey, my mind is really susceptible. I've done little things like, in fact, I'm staying with a friend at the moment, and there's a new horror movie that he wanted to watch, and he's like, "Do you want to watch it?" And I was like, "No, I can't watch horrors anymore. Like, I can't watch anything violent. I can't watch. I have to be really
Yeah.
careful about the content. Like years and years ago, I curated my feed before it became kind of fashionable to do so, but I have to be really mindful of what I put in and what I feed my mind."
Mm-hmm.
Because it does impact and affect everything.
For sure.
And similarly with my body, that manifest a piece of like, I actually really need to rest,
Mm-hmm.
and have an undefined root. And so again, the
Same.
conditioning around trusting the timing of
Yes.
like when I need to rest, that's not
Yes.
been an easy or comfortable
I
journey.
feel that. I feel that. Also an undefined root. Yes. It's a tricky one.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. One of the other things you talk about is soul contracts. And
Mhm.
I would love for you to kind of take a little dive into that part of things because we talked the interview I did not too long ago, we talked about Dharma and like your, purpose and stuff, but this is speaking about a little bit different with the soul contract. Can you tell us what is a soul contract and what that has to do with, we started talking about fulfillment at the beginning of the show, how that connects with fulfillment?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I have been asked a lot more recently to talk about Dharma, sorry, soul contracts, and that includes our Dharma, our
Sure.
karma, our purpose, like all of those pieces. And what I have found is when we first just put the words soul contract somewhere, people instantly think relationships.
Hmm.
People instantly think, oh, like I'm soul contracted to like meet this person or like someone somewhere I've got this soul contract with. Sure, that's true too, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the soul contracts you made with the collective, with the universe. You were gifted an opportunity, we all were gifted an opportunity to incarnate. And in that moment of incarnation, we went from being energy and part of the collective consciousness into being a human being. And, the moment of our birth, the moment we turn from energy into matter, is the data that we use for all of this information, all of these readings, our astrology, our human design, our gene keys, our numerology, it all comes from that code, that string of information of the exact moment that you became matter. And as a being of matter, you have a physical body, and that physical body gives you the opportunity to experience energy in motion inside of you, otherwise known as emotion. And so we came to have a physical and emotional experience. Ultimately, that's our purpose. There's no more to it than that. We came to have a physical and emotional experience and express it for the greatest and highest good of all, because the way energy moves, it comes in through our root, through our body, through the channels that we have, and then out through our throat chakra to be manifest. So we speak things into existence, or sing them, or write them, or communicate by activating our throat chakra. And that has an impact on other people. And most of us all want that impact to be good, and we want to be liked, and we limit our throats. We don't say things, we bite our tongues because we want everyone to like us. And part of that reclamation that we were talking about before of being fully fulfilled means expressing my emotions and or my disgust or distaste for the highest and greatest good of all. Because even if it doesn't land well immediately, there is an impact and an affect that happens. And so often as a 5-2, I don't necessarily see my impact or effect until later, or I've given up trying to have it land a certain way because I've got no idea how it's going to land, what's going to upset who, and all of that sort of stuff. So we have soul contracts that are written into our blueprint. And so the piece that I love in astrology is much more about the transits, the angles, the houses, like the areas of life that things are going to show up. We when I talk about contracts, what I'm talking about is you will have a south node that's here, you will have a north node that's here. This journey that you're going on is going to look like that. Your Saturn is going to be in this, so it's going to be in this gate or sign and in this house. And that means that you're here to master peace, in my case, in um and it's right up in my midheaven in like 10. So it's like peace in community or in business or in the world, right? And that's a really interesting thing to have contracted, because when I was younger, I would get into fights with people or conflict with people all the time. And actually, that's part of my soul contract, is to learn diplomacy, but also to learn to be fully expressed and to not take on other people's stuff.
Mhm.
You know, my core wound is in gate 29, and that becomes our vocation. And so that's about half-heartedness or saying yes to that which lights you up. And that's part of my soul contract, right? Is to learn how to say yes to the things that light me up and to not think about everybody else all the time, or whether they're going to like it. And then if you couple that with my North Node in Leo in the eighth house, it's also like, okay, this is another thing about becoming full of yourself, right? Enriching your own self. And my South Node is in Aquarius, and it's about, like, it's very easy for me to understand the collective or the community or the group or what everyone is going to need. So all of these things, often when we're looking at, or when I'm looking at a chart, it doesn't matter, or I'm looking at a person's physiology or the whole thing, everything says the same thing. It just says it in different ways. And it's all pointing to a theme. And we can get a little look of that from our incarnation cross and our activation sequence. But all of these different parts are really showing you what your soul incarnated for and contracted to experience and to really show up for in this life.
That was such a good explanation. Thank you for giving that explanation. And that makes total sense. And makes total sense how that would be part of our fulfillment, right? And living in alignment with all those things. And that was something we talked about when we were talking about Dharma. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner. So we're talking about Dharma is like when we're, living in alignment with this, like you're talking about soul contract, it allows life force energy to flow freely, and it's able to flow and be easeful and all of the things. Yeah.
And if you think about it, right, like if you're looking to align to your theme, your signature theme, and so if you're a manifesting generator, that's satisfaction, which is again that kind of sense of fulfillment. There are gonna be times when you don't feel that, when you feel frustrated. And so it can be like, okay, well, what is this showing me? Is it showing me somewhere that I'm saying yes when I mean no? Is it showing me somewhere where I'm putting somebody else before myself? Is it showing me, what is this? And we can use the soul contract, the pieces of your jigsaw puzzle, to look at the overall theme, because most of the people who I work with, because I have this midheaven in Libra, overgive or have a piece of codependency. Whereas if I was somebody who maybe had something else going on, if I didn't have the soul contract that I did, telling people to be more full of themselves and selfish would land totally differently. My radiance sphere is in gate 27. It's about nourishment. It's about right, and so I'm always like, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to be selfish. Am I too selfish? And this piece of altruism and nurturance has been a really interesting theme. And everyone's chart or body graph or map I've ever looked at, when we look at their soul contract, it's always a reoccurring theme. This is what you incarnated for.
Yeah.
And so if you're following everything on social media and what school told you or what your parents told you, or the amount of years I was looking for some kind of proof, or I have my will center defined. So it's not necessarily proof, but I wasn't motivated by the things that society told me I needed, like more money or six figures or a business that did this or a house and kids. But but I wanted to belong. Open
Mm.
G Center, right? So
Mm-hmm.
badly. So
Mm-hmm.
I started trying to manifest the things that everybody else is trying to manifest, because then I'll belong, right? If I
Mm-hmm.
get what they want, then they'll like me.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I have what they want? Will they like me, or will they be in competition with me? Oh, I can't be in competition. So I can see all the ways that I created my own conditioning. But then when I see my own soul contract, it's like, oh, I didn't incarnate for that at all. Right. What a relief. Okay. What am I actually here for? Oh, you mean I can just be myself?
Oh, it's a novel idea. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. It's so freeing. It's so liberating to look at it that way. I love that. Now, yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I was just going to say, sometimes people give readings or they go for a thing and they're like, oh, but the lady told me I was this, or someone told me I was like that. And I just want to speak to that for a second to say,
Yeah.
that's not how you should feel when you leave a
Yes.
reading. You should feel
Yes.
so affirmed, because it's about being your true self, and it isn't anything that you need to do or get right. And so if that's the lens with which you're unconsciously looking at it, then that you're already out of alignment, right? Because
Yeah.
you're looking to perform
Mm-hmm.
your chart, or rather than soften into like, oh, these are all the things I get to let go of and just be these ones.
Oh, thank you for speaking to that. That's so true. And I think that's really important uh, to
Mhm.
hold on to that perspective for sure. As to kind of wrap all this up in a nice little bow, do you
Yes.
have, for those listening and kind of going back to that initial concept of being full of ourselves,
Yeah.
do you have any, I don't know, one or two things to help women listening who want to really like own that part? Like, I want to be full of myself. Like, what are a couple things that we can start doing like right now?
I'm sure that you share this already with them. And again, it's a really simple thing. And the amount of people who don't know or stop to do it still fascinates me. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it?
Mm,
And, or same, but different, where is my power right now? And by power, I mean energy, right? You have energy, you can feel energy within your body. If you rub your hands together and pull them apart, like, you are made of energy. And spending some time just checking in with yourself, is my energy inside me, inside my body, or outside of me? Did I leave it in a meeting? Did I leave it with a conversation? Did I, is it in the future planning dinner? Like, where is my energy right now? And can I, curious experiment, bring it back? And
mhm,
for me, it's about aligning our intention and our attention. If we're like, okay, my attention's here, and what is my intention? Oh, my intention is to be really present, or to get this thing out of today, or just to, to get through it sometimes, whatever it is. But we can check, where is my power? What is my intention? Where is my attention? Can I bring them together right now? Okay, what am I feeling and where am I feeling it? Because that can also give us clues to, oh, the reason I don't want to be in here right now is I need the bathroom. I'm thirsty. I'm tired. I don't actually have attention for this. And so instead of staying, I'm going to say, I don't have attention for this. And I'm gonna leave. And these things are so simple, but you're not being full of yourself if you're sat in a chair, completely numb, having disassociated because you're too polite to leave, and you don't quite have the articulation to know what it is that you need.
mhm. Yeah, well, that's beautiful. Yeah. The way you said that was perfect. 'Cause, yeah, we talk about that a lot on the show, checking in with yourself. But I think the big questions you had to ask, that's perfect.
Mhm.
Checking in with, where is my power now? Like, that's a really powerful question to ask yourself. Because I think the majority of us, if we really stop to ask that question, is probably somewhere out in the ethers, hanging around somewhere. We've left it with somebody else. So I think that's a really important question to ask.
One of the things I ask myself a lot is, what am I making my God?
Mm,
And what I mean by that is money. Is money my God? Is
mhm,
is being liked my God? Is being accepted my God? Like, there's somewhere we always have an agenda. We may not think that we do, but we always have an agenda, and there's something that is a priority or a focus for
mhm,
us. And for me, it's quite difficult sometimes to know what that priority or that focus is. But if I really ask myself, like, what am I making my God right now? Something shifts inside me, and I would return to myself of like, actually, I want it to be the experience. I want it to be being present and listening and understanding and being human.
mhm.
But if I'm not asking myself that, it's like I'm making money and time. My God,
Right,
right?
right. Yes, yes, that's so powerful. Yes, yes,
Mm.
yes. This is so good, Ebony. I just love these conversations because
Mm.
I feel like we do have so much that kind of, for lack of a better word, like stands in our way of that true fulfillment we're all looking for. And so I think like these are such powerful perspectives and questions to ask ourselves that you're giving us here. And I do have one more question I want to ask you that I like to ask everyone as we wrap up. But before I do, can you let everybody know the best place to find you, to learn more about what you do and follow along and maybe work with you?
So if you want to come find me and discover all the things, then it's ebonieallard.com, and Ebony's with an IE. And if you are a social person and you like words and pictures, then I am on Instagram every day. And it is my place to play. If you like, I love having chats in the DMs. I'm likely to send you a voice note. It's a really great place to hang out. And I also have a podcast, which is Becoming Full of Yourself, which is primarily on Substack, but also on all the places that you would normally watch or listen to your podcast.
Perfect. And of course, I'll have all that in the show notes. So you can go follow along and give Ebony's podcast a follow too. It's so good. The last question I want to ask you is, what is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
Slow down. Autopilot and the basal ganglia has a lot to answer for. Like we use our prefrontal cortex all the time and far too often, really, right? We give it all the different jobs and it is not supposed to be used all the time. And so, as often as possible, the brain will pass things back to these older parts of our brain that can do things on repeat. And so, it's why we're always looking for patterns. And the basal ganglia is the part that will have you driving your kid to school on a Saturday by accident, right? If you're not paying attention, you're like, oh, we just do that. It's autopilot. And so, there can be this thing of like, if I slow down, then I can choose where and what my purpose is in any given moment. Otherwise, we often end up operating on autopilot and reacting rather than responding.
Mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
that's so good. And I think that's so important for all of us to hear. I think we can all adopt that, like just living a little slower. I think that's where true presence and intention comes from. So that's such good.
Yeah, the urge as a money gen just to keep going,
Yes.
to keep going, to keep going
Yes.
is so strong.
Yes.
And and the way that people talk about manifesting generators is always like, oh, you're so fast, you're so fast. Only we skip steps and we make mistakes and end up doing it about 6 times if we don't slow down.
Yes, I know that from experience. Yes, it's a real
And
thing.
so for me at the moment, like I need to remind myself every day, slow
Yep.
down, act with intention.
Yes. Yes. I have a little thing on my desk, behind my desk, that talks about that slow living, a quote about slow living. So yeah, I with you
Mm.
there. Thank you, Ebony. This was so gorgeous. I love it. I love you. I love talking to you. You're such a wealth of insight and wisdom for all of us. So thank you for sharing that
My
wisdom.
pleasure. Thank you so, so much for inviting me on. It's always a joy to speak with you, Hope.